Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Green Flag. I'm your host, Lukas Wacker, and with me, as always, we have Kyle Cushman. And welcome to the F1 Imola GP preview episode. Get you set up for the second round of the Formula One season here. We've got our fantasy picks for this weekend, as well as our race winner picks and the podium as well. We've got a little bit of news to get to in this one as well. So an action-packed kind of episode here to get Formula back into the swing of things after a couple of weeks off from the Bahrain Grand Prix. And let's just hop right into the news and notes of this one. It's a bit of a painful one for this one. The Canadian Grand Prix, close to our hearts. It's looking like it's basically official that it's going to be canceled for Formula One in a couple of, I guess, about a month and a half's time. It was 2 months,
June
I guess.
Date, so like
June
a month
date,
and a half.
Month and a half.
Thereabouts.
So it's going to be canceled, it seems. Unfortunately, the circuit Gilles Villeneuve will not be hosting a Formula One Grand Prix for the second consecutive year due to the pandemic, obviously with the COVID-19 restrictions and everything like that that are set in place currently in Canada, specifically Quebec. It is basically not safe to have Formula One without fans or with fans. It's just not plausible for them to come over here at this moment in time. So it's very unfortunate here. Canadian Grand Prix, one of the best racing that we've seen, basically see all season long, really, for Formula One. And as Canadians, we are obviously a huge fan of this track. And it's a disappointment that we're not going to see some premier motorsports on this amazing circuit. So unfortunate news here, Kyle, for the Canadian Grand Prix.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen anything on this circuit. It's one of my favorite in the world. It's one of my favorite Formula One races in the season, and that's whether it was in Canada or not. It's just a spectacular track named after one of the best drivers we've ever seen that we lost far too soon, and it's in Canada. It's a phenomenal venue and race date, and it's unfortunate to see it go, but it's the move that made sense. You couldn't schedule it into the season later on with the rest of the Americas trip, because if you're doing so, you're looking at like 6 or 7 straight races and then going from like Russia to Singapore to Japan and like Canada all in like
all over the place.
A 4-week span. Like, it's just not feasible, which is unfortunate because, yeah, as we said, CGV is one of our favorite racetracks. So hopefully we can get back there soon enough. Hopefully we can see cars in there soon enough. But definitely unfortunate. It looks like Istanbul is going to be the one that replaces it, which makes a lot of sense in terms of them going last year, kind of a backup plan going into this year. Still get another unique date. You don't have to have a double header or anything like that. But we'll see how things go there if they do decide to go the double header route. But at the very least, losing Canada, very unfortunate, but the right decision in terms of everyone's safety.
Yeah, that's the most important thing, right? Everybody's safety, and
just doesn't make sense to do the international travel to Canada given circumstances right now.
For a one-off week, yeah, it doesn't make too much sense. So hopefully in 2022, when the next generation of Formula One cars are on track, Canada, the pandemic, everything will be back kind of to normal, and we can have racing back at this iconic track. So
maybe add NASCAR to the schedule as well as CGV. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
We all know that we'd be here for it. I think even American fans can agree that it puts on a really good racing product. Kyle, if we
was talking about it earlier.
All the ifs, ands, and buts that we could do for Canada motorsports, it's probably the longest list that we could ever create. And unfortunately, sometimes we just don't get that break. And we didn't get the break again this season, it seems. So that's unfortunate. And we're looking forward to it whenever it comes back on the calendar, because it will be a mainstay on the F1 calendar.
It's coming back,
It's a massive track. It's a massive market for them over here in North America. So it makes sense for them to come back. Hopefully in 2022, if they are back and everything's kind of back to normal.
They better be here by 2022. Holy.
I want to be in attendance probably for that race if I can be, because I think it'd be really, really fun. Take a green flag on the road.
For me too. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, take the green flag on the road to go for a little road trip, or up to Montreal and go meet Drew up there. See if he. But
if we're being honest, Toronto Indy's probably the next one to get canceled as well.
Yes.
It's very unlikely that that's going to happen, given they need like 30 to 40 days in advance or something like that to get the street course ready, bring everybody up. It doesn't seem like it's going to be feasible, which again is a heartbreaker, because I was really hoping that I'd be able to go there this year, first time that I'll probably be in Toronto for Indy as well, which would have been awesome. But looks like that's probably not going to happen either.
we're going to make 2022 the best year ever, Kyle. But when we go to all these races, we're going to be spending a whole lot of money, and it's going to be a whole lot of worth it. That's
I'll let you spend the money and I'll tag along.
That's okay. That's fine. I'll gladly pay for it. Shoot, let's just go for it.
Let's hope we can get press passes by then. Hey?
You only live once, so let's just enjoy it while we can here. And just once again, Canadian Grand Prix being canceled, and Istanbul. That's going to be a great addition. Hopefully, the track surface is a little bit more drivable. Just if it's not in the rain, I'm curious to see what it would look like during the dry conditions.
By now it'll be fine. But
yeah. I wish Hockenheim was on there. That would have been a great one, but
not confirmed Istanbul, but people have talked about that as being the backup plan. We'll see if they decide to just do a double header at some place, or if they decide to put Istanbul back on. But regardless, an unfortunate decision, but the right one.
Yeah, for sure. Let's move on to the last bit of news really for this episode for Formula One. It is likely, very highly likely, basically almost confirmed, if you want to call it that the Miami Grand Prix for Formula One could happen as early as next season. There's been talks about this. There's been the track layout kind of rumored around the Hard Rock Stadium down there in Florida. So it's very likely that it's going to end up down there in Miami, which is going to be really, really cool to see another street circuit added to it, specifically in North America here. It may come at the expense of the Circuit of the Americas, it seems, to not have two American GPs, but we'll see on that front. It just seems like Miami is the next logical place for them to go. It's because the turnouts in Texas haven't been exactly what they have hoped for since coming over here to that state specifically. And I think if they're looking at another Formula One track in the States, Las Vegas looks like to be a possible one for a street course, or as well the Indianapolis road course going back there for Formula One. So they've got lots of options over here in North America to come over to a track. It'd be unfortunate if they do lose that, but at least we do have NASCAR to compensate at the Circuit of the Americas. If this does mean going to the Miami Grand Prix, we lose, the Circuit of the Americas. But what are your thoughts here, Kyle? It seems like a pretty cool destination. It would bring a lot of attention to the state of Florida there, and we all know how they handle their COVID-19 stuff. But hopefully beyond that, it's going to be a cool atmosphere down there in the Sunshine State.
Yeah, this is something that they've been trending towards for a while here, and it's a really fascinating one from a lot of different angles. In terms of Miami as a destination, it's great for Formula One to go there as a place that's more touristy than Texas is to a certain extent. You'd probably be looking at a better race date as well, depending on where it falls in the schedule. So there's a lot of different things to look at there. In terms of the expected layout, it's not an overly exciting race layout, but we'll see if they make any changes from the last time that they kind of had a mock-up of it, because there's been a couple iterations that they've looked at. The original one had a couple long straights along the bridge, so there's a lot of different routes that they've been kind of looking at here so far. So we'll see if it changes from the last one, but the last one didn't look all that great, so we'll see what happens there. But a street course is always super, super cool. To have one in Miami is awesome as well. We know Florida as a racing state as well. When you look at Daytona there, Sebring, like there's a lot of great racing that goes down in Florida. Really cool to see Miami, as we expect to get that race date. Unconfirmed as to whether there would be two American Grand Prix, if they would be replacing COTA. There's a lot of stuff up in the air there. It seems like there's a lot of interest from F1 to have two American dates. Now, if you want those 2 days to be in Texas and Florida, I'm not sure. I'm sure they'd be much prefer looking at like an NYC and Los Angeles kind of situation if they were to have 2 dates. So I would expect Miami to replace COTA, which is a bit unfortunate. But a lot of things still to come here in terms of, as I said, whether it's 1 or 2 American dates. We haven't seen that ever or for a very, very long time at least. So a lot of things still to come in terms of the confirmations. But in terms of the announcement itself, the idea of it, super cool. I'm just hoping that maybe the track layout is a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, the F1's ability to tap into a worldwide marketplace is like anything else that we see. Is not like anything else we see in professional sports. So it's just great to see that they're branching out here, trying a new location here down in Miami, a very diverse culture down there in Florida, specifically in the Miami area. So you're going to get a lot of flair down there, to say the least. And I think it could be a really fun weekend just in general for the drivers and for the atmosphere and for any sort of race fans that go down there and visit because it's going to be a great tourist attraction as well, being closer to Europe for the flying time. So maybe some more European travelers want to take that flight down to Florida. But all those extenuating circumstances, I'm sure, have crossed Formula One's mind, and I think they're making a pretty smart decision here if they want to try going down to Miami. Of course, COTA is a great racetrack, but if you got to go where the fans are going to be in the marketplace, so it makes sense from a business perspective. So that does it, I think, for the news and notes. I don't know if you have anything else you wanted to add on that, Kyle, but we've got our fantasy picks to get to for Formula One here before we get into our winner picks. And just to break down here quickly on how we want to do Formula One this season, we're going to release what they look like on our Instagram feed here, probably by the time you're watching this. But we've got 6 options here, 5 drivers, 1 constructor. You have a budget of $100 million, and you got to try and make the best driver lineup possible who you want. Who you think is going to do the best at this upcoming weekend, and you get 3 free changes per weekend. So you kind of look at practice speeds, which I'd usually do, but you can also look at you can look at your team performance as well, and just see how well it's going to do. And you can exceed that $100 million in budget if your team value goes up. That's how you want to view it as well.
Or down. So, if you pick a bad lineup, like there's a lot of variation to it. So this one's fun as well because we got a few friends in the league as well. Yeah. So we got a bit more competition as well, rather than just going the head-to-head and seeing and mixing up the lineup for this one. We can actually have the same lineup if we so choose, because we got some other people competing against. So at least for us, after Bahrain, a good sign for us, given that we're 1-2 in the standings, which would have been a bad look for us as the 2 hosts of the show if we went ahead and didn't have that lead. You're up on me by 5 points, so a better one by you there at 175 to 170. So it's a close one to start, to say the least.
I'll take it. I'm happy to be leading.
NASCAR wasn't enough for you, I guess.
I'm happy to lead both Formula One and NASCAR here for fantasy. I do applaud myself for give myself a lot of credit for my fantasy abilities. So, okay, let's get into our fantasy picks this weekend for Imola. We can kind of go back and forth. We know what each other's lineup is before this race weekend. It's not really determined.
Don't remember what yours is, but
okay, well, fair enough. But we can go through the changes really. But we'll start off with the similarities of what we had previously for Bahrain and what we have now for Imola. So there's people that I'm staying the same. I made a boo-boo when I was doing this prior to the show, a slight boo-boo. And I accidentally pressed save my lineup, and I used one of my free usages, so I couldn't make full 3 swaps. So that's totally my bad.
Wanting to do 3 swaps though?
Not really, but okay. I would have liked to have seen the options that I could have had instead. But I was kind of stuck with 2 after my mistake there. So that was unfortunate. But my 4 that I'm going to stay the same with for Imola this weekend, Max Verstappen, Pierre Gasly, Lando Norris, and Carlos Sainz. I think all those guys could have good weekends. Verstappen has looked a little bit off in practice at times. The first practice, he was 3rd behind the Mercedes. Mercedes looks actually pretty solid this weekend. They seem like the faster manufacturer or constructor this weekend. And then AlphaTauri looks really solid. McLaren's been kind of hit or miss. They haven't quite had that clear-cut practice session yet with no issues. And then Ferrari actually looks really, really good this weekend for one of their home Grand Prix this season. So curious to see how they do. But what do you got for similarities from the last time we did this 3 weeks ago for Bahrain?
Yeah, so a little slight thing for myself. I originally made some changes. I made 2 changes, and then earlier today, after seeing some of the practice times, I made 1 final change, which was actually putting somebody that I originally had in back in. So I essentially made 2 changes, but it comes out as 3. So I've got Verstappen still in. I've got Gasly still in. I originally had Norris still in, but I made the decision to swap him out for Carlos Sainz. He's worth $900K more. I had the room to work with. After seeing some of the practice times, I decided to make that switch. Coming out of my lineup is Esteban Ocon, and the other one I can't remember off the top of my head. Who else did I have in my lineup?
Oh, boy.
Anyways. Sorry. So the other one was originally Sainz. So Sainz is back in. So the ones that I've replaced are Norris and Ocon. There it is. Okay. Into my lineup steps the other McLaren of Daniel Ricciardo, and I'm going with George Russell in the Williams and sticking with Red Bull as the constructor. So I think with all that, I think we can dive into things.
Yeah, I didn't say my changes there quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, for mine, I made two swaps. So I took out Red Bull as the constructor, just because Perez's pace this weekend so far has left me a little bit concerned, and Verstappen's history in Italy here has left me a little bit concerned. So I'm going to take the safer approach here. I could have gone Ferrari, but I'm going to go with McLaren's consistency since I don't have Daniel Ricciardo in my lineup. So I'm going to take McLaren as my constructor, and then Charles Leclerc breaks into my lineup with the lesser of a budget there from the Red Bull. That's quite the dip off from Red Bull to McLaren. So I had the extra money to drop Yuki Tsunoda. As much as I would love to keep him in here, the Ferrari looks really, really good around here. And if I can get Charles Leclerc in my lineup, I will absolutely do that. So my lineup's looking like Verstappen, Gasly, Norris, the two Ferraris of Sainz and Leclerc, and then McLaren as the constructor. And then I've got Pierre Gasly as my turbo driver here for double the points that he can earn this entire weekend.
Yeah, I've got Gasly as well for my turbo driver. So I think from here, we can kind of dive into the specifics of each driver and maybe why we took some people out or put people in. So I think start with Max Verstappen. He's the obvious one. No reason to take him out of the lineup. I can really see justifiable. The Red Bull has looked to this point as the best car. He probably should have won the race last time out at Bahrain. Yeah. And when you look at the value as well, he's still only worth $25.1 million. I just don't see a reason why you would take him out and put in one of the Mercedes at this point.
Yeah, when I look at how his teammates performing so far with Perez, he's going to get those points bumps from beating his teammate, most likely, if he can finish the deal this weekend in terms of qualifying and finishing ahead of him in the race. And Verstappen, he was up here finishing about P2 here last season, if not for that flat tire that he had with the puncture. And he was basically on Bottas's tail. Hamilton was kind of in his own world, but Verstappen get the pressure on Bottas. So I think with the Red Bull being an even stronger car this season compared to the Mercedes, you could see Verstappen absolutely go up there and do something if he can get a qualifying lap in. It was funny in practice where he got towed back to the pits and he was kind of just in the middle of traffic there with just regular street cars. So it's an interesting circuit there with Imola, but Verstappen's an easy one.
Yeah, who do you want to hit on next?
We can go with Gasly because he's our turbo driver because the AlphaTauri just looks absolutely insane this weekend. Both drivers look really, really solid. Gasly's up there consistently in that top six, it seems. And I think from the poor weekend that he had with Bahrain, with the unfortunate incident there with losing that front wing, he's due for a little bit of a bounce back here, out to redeem himself here. And of course, we saw here last season, this is the track where we unfortunately lost Ayrton Senna a long time ago. And he wore that special Ayrton Senna helmet for this one. So I think there's a bit of an emotional connection there. And I think he's out to prove something here this weekend. So I've got Pierre Gasly for all those reasons turboing here because I think there's a lot of value with him for only 11.7 million, and I think he could be really, really good.
Yeah, I completely agree. AlphaTauri last year was phenomenal at Imola. When you look at qualifying, Pierre Gasly fourth, Daniil Kvyat eighth. Both AlphaTauris in Q3, and Gasly with a top five starting position, best of the rest, beating Alex Albon and the Red Bull as well. Just all of it, just looking fantastic for them. In the race, unfortunate because Gasly didn't get to finish the race. He had a coolant leak on lap 8. He only finished 8 laps. So we don't really have a frame of reference as to where he would have finished, except Daniil Kvyat finished fourth. So a very, very strong race last year for the AlphaTauri boys. This year, they look even stronger as well coming into the weekend. Pierre Gasly's been up there in the top 5 in practice times. And in Bahrain as well, qualified 5th. And of course, had the damage where he didn't really get the finishing position he deserved. But in terms of the points finishers, rookie driver Yuki Tsunoda finished 9th. So all signs are pointing towards the AlphaTauris being very strong. Pierre Gasly being similarly on another planet as he was last year for much of the season. I feel really, really good about him coming into Imola. I'm expecting him to be up there contending for best of the rest. And clearly both of us think pretty highly of him because we both got him as turbo drivers.
Yeah, we could have more of a higher profile guy in terms of what we consider higher profile in the sport as our turbo driver.
That I'm picking him over. Yeah, he's my fourth most expensive driver in my lineup, and yet he's still going turbo for myself.
He is my lowest So he's my least expensive guy. I'm going with him as my turbo. So it just makes sense for me there to put Gasly there.
Do we have any other similar drivers?
Sainz.
Do you have Sainz as well? Okay,
Yeah,
so we can
Carlos
hit on
Sainz.
Sainz next year.
Yeah, he's looked really, really good in the practice sheets so far this weekend. And Ferrari just seems to have a little bit of an uptick of pace this season, and especially here at Imola. I'm not sure. Do you have the results from last season where he finished in this one? Where did he finish?
So Carlos Sainz finished 7th last year with McLaren, behind Sergio Perez, Charles Leclerc, Daniel Kvyat, Daniel Ricciardo of the best of the rest kind of group. But he did finish 1 position ahead of his teammate Lando Norris.
Yeah, I think Leclerc will probably beat out Sainz this weekend, but I could see them finishing nip and tuck kind of like the entire way this weekend in terms of qualifying and in the race speed. He's got decent value here. It went down 0.1 million as well from his effort in Bahrain. So 14.3 million there for Carlos Sainz. It just makes sense for me to put him in there. And if Ferrari shows speed on the Friday, then I can kind of guess that they're going to be decent for Saturday and Sunday. So I'll keep him in here once again this weekend.
Yeah, the free practice speed is what convinced me to put him back in over Lando Norris, because last year Norris didn't have as good of a weekend. He outqualified Sainz by 1 and then was beaten by him by 1 in the race. So very, very similar in that regard. I originally had Norris still in the lineup, but I didn't feel great about having both McLarens in there because they weren't like that top tier team last year in terms of best of the rest. So I like going with Sainz as a different option because I had the space to do so. And so far this year, 6th in free practice 1 and 4th in free practice 2 with the 4th best time of the weekend so far with a 1 minute 15.835 as well. I feel really strong about the Ferraris coming into this one. So I feel similarly pretty solid about Sainz coming into this weekend.
Alrighty. I think we're out of the differences now.
Yes.
Would
hit
you
on,
like to
hit
lead
on
us
your
off?
more expensive one first.
Okay. I've got, I guess it's the constructor first for me in terms of.
Okay. Well, do you want to hit on constructor first, or? I think we should finish out the drivers.
We'll go with the drivers. So my last change here was just on the driver front. Yuki Tsunoda out, Charles Leclerc in, and that's just purely because Charles Leclerc looks really, really good this weekend, and he's just a generational talent. Like, I don't really need to say much more than that for Leclerc. If he shows speed in practice, I think there's definitely something there for Ferrari this weekend to be had. I think a top 5 is on the cards if they can get a bit of luck in qualifying. That race pace that they showed in Bahrain is a little bit worrying, how far kind of he fell back when we saw some other guys really jump forward, specifically the McLaren. Lando Norris, he looked really good on race pace during the actual race itself. But I'll take the chance that it's a difficult track to overtake at. So if they can get the track position here for Ferrari during qualifying over the McLaren, which I think could be possible this weekend, considering what we've seen from practice speeds, I have all the faith in the world that Charles Leclerc can do something this weekend.
Yeah, I really like Leclerc as well. I just didn't have that extra room to go and fit him in the lineup here in taking Sainz over Norris there. If I kept Norris, I might have been able to go with Leclerc, I think. But for my next guy, I feel really strong about him here, and that's Daniel Ricciardo. Got the podium last year with Renault. Obviously, some help with Max Verstappen having his issues and whatnot. But he was really, really good here last year. It's a track that not a lot of drivers have experience at. Like, you're looking at Fernando Alonso as the most experienced because he was actually driving in F1 when they last raced here before last year. But for Ricciardo, he was really, really strong here last year. The McLarens look really solid. This season, the practice times haven't necessarily been there, but I don't put a ton into that. But I feel really strong about Ricciardo coming into this weekend. 16.8 mil is a lot to kind of look at there, but he's down 0.1 mil after being beaten by Norris last time out, which we anticipated being at Bahrain, one of Lando's best tracks, and being Ricciardo's first race for McLaren. I feel like as the season goes along, Ricciardo's going to get better and better in that McLaren. I feel like he's got a really, really good shot of being best of the rest here at this one.
Yeah, I really, really like Daniel Ricciardo here. That's why I went with McLaren for my constructor. I just couldn't quite fit him in there budget-wise, or I didn't want to put all 3 of the McLaren and the constructor all into one. So as I do on NASCAR, try to cover all my bases, and that's exactly what I did for Formula One here this weekend. And then to close out my driver lineup for this one, I've got Lando Norris. I kept him in here for this one. I don't know how good he's going to be this weekend, but I just like his value. He's up 0.3 million from Bahrain to now. So obviously he's done something right, hence the result he did in Bahrain. I don't think this is going to be his best effort of the season by any means, but I think there is potential for him to, if Ricardo struggles somehow. I'm not saying that he will, because I honestly don't think he will. I just couldn't quite make it budget wise work if I wanted both the Ferraris and Lando and the McLaren kind of constructor. I had to try and bite a bullet somewhere, and I'm going to take that risk and put that on Lando Norris and just hope for the best with him, get a couple of good points. And I'm not going to turbo driver him this time around. I'm going to try and put that value elsewhere with Pierre Gasly.
Yeah, and my last one, I'm going cheap on it because I've still got the big expensive constructor, George Russell, at 6.2 million. Get him in there. He, of course, should have got points last year if it wasn't for the little spin under the safety car, which has all been talked about far too much. But in terms of Russell there, should have been a points finisher last year. This year, the Williams looks like they've brought a strong car to Imola here as well. Some solid pace through practice so far. I just feel good about George Russell coming into this one. And at 6.2 million of kind of that less expensive group of the Haas and the Williams, I obviously feel best about George Russell there. I think he could be, if some people have some issues higher up the grid, I could easily see him going out and getting a point for his first ever for Williams. So Russell this weekend, cool. I feel pretty good about, and gives me the ability to go out and spend a little bit more on Ricardo as well. So that's the thought process for that one.
Yeah, I like it. Two differences there, really. It's kind of a tale of two halves, really.
Do we want to talk about the drivers we took out before we get to constructors here, or save that afterwards?
Let's just talk about them now while we're on the drivers. Yeah. For myself, I only made one driver change. So that was Yuki Tsunoda coming out. Just experience, basically, for this one. Yeah, I mean, his practice times look pretty solid. Obviously finished last in that FP1, but for FP2 is right back up there inside the top 10. So I think if I even kept the same lineup once again this weekend, I don't think I would be worse off really than what I have. I just wanted to switch things up, try and just see what works and what doesn't here. It's early on in the season. I think if I play my cards right early on here and just look at some other options outside of my lineup that I picked for my first weekend, then I get a better grasp of what's going on in terms of my point scoring for the season long. So that's basically my rationale behind taking out Yuki Tsunoda and putting in Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, it's a risky one, though, because the AlphaTauris look pretty strong, though. Yeah. So interested to see how that one plays out there. For myself, losing Norris was a tough one to make, but I felt better about Sainz into the weekend. I wanted to take the swing on Ricardo there as well. And for Norris, the results last year at this track were okay. And I don't know if going with both McLarens was a great strategy, and in terms of having the ability to go with Sainz there. So just didn't feel as great about Norris versus Sainz. And then for Ocon there as well. Last year, we didn't get to see what the finish would have been because of a gearbox issue, but he qualified 12th versus Daniel Ricciardo's 5th place last year. And at Bahrain, Alpine just didn't look quite up there in terms of really contending for strong points. I still like Ocon throughout the season. I think he's still going to be in my lineup fairly often in terms of being a cheaper option that I think can surprise a lot of people throughout the season. I just haven't seen it from Alpine to this point, and so I'm going a bit of a different route with a higher end lineup and then sneaking in a cheaper option at the bottom end.
Yeah, and then for myself, just finishing off the constructor there and why I switched out Red Bull. I think Mercedes is going to be the strongest team this weekend, so I didn't want to quite go with Red Bull there. When I looked at the point differential from last week for Red Bull to McLaren, it was pretty lofty. It's about 20-ish points between the two. So, but that being said, Red Bull was the strongest car that weekend in Bahrain. I don't see that happening again, so I think the points differential should be closer. And I think Daniel Ricciardo will lift McLaren up a little bit here, saying that I don't have him in my lineup, but that's why I'm going with McLaren overall with the constructor to make sure I get that bogey, really. So that's my thought rationale there, going for a heavier driver lineup and just kind of sacrificing a little bit on the constructor side. And then I can make my decision if I want to go back to Red Bull basically from here on out, if that's the way to go and you're going to get more points from them, or can I look elsewhere at other constructors and go with more of a heavier hitter driver lineup? So that's basically my thought process behind my entire lineup there. So, that does it really for fantasy. Anything else you want to touch on with that?
Just Red Bull for myself here. I want to stick with them because I feel like they're a shoe-in for a really strong either double podium or second kind of result here. Maybe not at Imola. We'll see what I end up going with for my podium picks or anything like that. But I feel like as soon as that happens, they're going to jump up in value. And I really want to cash in on that to at least get the extra bonus in terms of my budget as well. So I feel like that's coming. Honda looks really good in terms of the AlphaTauris. Yeah. Surely that'll apply to the Red Bulls as well. A bit of a mixed bag in terms of free practices, to say the least, for Red Bull there, with Perez having an incident and Verstappen having an issue as well. We'll see if that affects qualifying or anything, but I still feel very good about them going into the race.
I was looking at AlphaTauri for the constructor, but
that would have opened up a lot of ability for the rest, but that's a little too risky with a rookie driver there.
Yeah, that's essentially what it came down to. When I looked at Tsunoda, when I played him last week at Bahrain, because it seemed like he had really good one-lap pace, but then he
also got a lot of testing laps there.
Yeah, and he got knocked out in Q2. So I didn't really want to sacrifice that again. I think both Ferraris will make it to Q3, and that's the biggest part for that equation there.
I mean, it is Ferrari. We don't know yet.
I know, but hopefully they can do it here for the Tifosi kind of at their home Grand Prix to an extent. So it's a home Grand Prix for AlphaTauri as well, just 20 minutes down the road from where they set up shop. It's more of a home
Grand Prix for AlphaTauri there.
Yeah, so I don't know what to do, man. It's tough, but I've already locked it in. So I'll take what I can get with the points for this weekend, and I'm not going to make that same mistake once again with losing my stupid usage by saving the lineup. So I think that does it really for fantasy. We can get our predictions done for the poll and the podium, and of course the best of the rest from beyond that podium's places. So I kind of won fantasy first, so I think you go first.
It doesn't really matter.
Well, go for it. You can go first for this one. Okay. I'll let you go.
Thank you. For myself, I do think that, we'll still see, but I'll say that some of the issues that they've had in free practice will affect at least going into qualifying. So I'll say that Mercedes kind of holds strong through qualifying, and I'll say Lewis Hamilton gets pole for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix.
I have him as well for my pole position. He looks really, really locked in this weekend. And I think in our I guess I'm wrong already. We did in our preseason F1 predictions. We said, when is he going to get his 100th pole, 100th win kind of thing? And I had it at the Canadian Grand Prix. So whatever race that was, that takes that spot. No. I don't care. But I think he's close to.
He needs 2 more poles, so I don't remember where we said each of us would.
That's too far back in time right now. There's so many things that's happened since then. I'll go with Hamilton for pole here. Best of the rest, beyond the podium. So 4th place, leading the
not necessarily 4th place, just the top finisher outside of the Red Bull and Mercedes.
Oh. Okay, then I have somebody on my podium that is beyond fine. Those two. Okay, so my best of the rest leader is Pierre Gasly for this one.
Okay. I don't know why you thought a podium finish disqualified you from best of the rest, but anyways, Gasly is also my best of the rest. It just makes sense. He's both our turbo driver, which is of course for the best of the rest drivers. And it just makes too much sense. AlphaTauri here, super strong. Gasly here was phenomenal in qualifying last year with a worse AlphaTauri, coming here with an even better one. I think he's going to open a lot of eyes once again with this result.
All right. Yeah. I can't go wrong with Pierre Gasly. I think this weekend he seems in pretty good form. So let's go to the podium here. We'll go through 3-1. And I kind of spoiled it a little bit there with my best of the rest pick, but I do have Pierre Gasly getting a podium this weekend. And I'm saying he's going to get 3rd place for the Imola Grand Prix here. I think the stars are aligning for Pierre Gasly to get another podium in his Formula One career. I think that there's the potential for a split strategy there where somebody could get left out or something happens off the start going into turn 1 where one of the heavy hitters could potentially get involved into something. Reliability could still be an issue here early on in the season as well. So I think all those factors coming into this one, I can't go with one of the most popular podiums in F1 history with Bottas, Verstappen, and Hamilton. So I'm going to spice things up and go with Pierre Gasly.
For myself, third on the podium step, Lewis Hamilton. I'm going with finishing third in this one.
What now?
Lewis Hamilton finishing third here, and more of the explanation will come in a second here.
That would be helpful.
But the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton in the 44 will finish third.
Are you seriously going to go with the Red Bull one too?
I don't know. Maybe I'm going with something different.
Oh my God! Wow, you're nuts. Okay, well, for my P2, I've got Max Verstappen finishing here, and I think that the speed, I think he's going to play bridesmaid once again this weekend. I think the Mercedes is the overall stronger car this weekend. It suits their car a little bit better than the Red Bull, in my opinion. And I think Verstappen's going to be right there with Hamilton, but I think that track position that Hamilton will have off the start will allow him to prevail over the long haul of this race. So Verstappen P2 for me.
P2? Sergio Perez.
Oh my God.
Last year, don't forget, he started from the pit lane and finished fifth. So he had a phenomenal drive last year. And I really think that he can do really, really solid here. So, he started 11th and finished sixth. Apologies. I was looking at the wrong way, but regardless, had a very, very good drive coming up through the field. So I feel really good about Perez here. He probably should have been a little bit higher up as well because of some of the strategy calls from Racing Point there, but I feel really good about Perez here. He came up through the field really, really strong at Bahrain to go out and get that really strong finish still, despite having that pit lane start and everything there. So for Perez, he showed the ability last time at Bahrain that even if the Red Bull shenanigans happen, he can still go out and get a very, very strong finish. I think that lends towards, if he actually gets that good starting position like he was supposed to having a really good race. And so Sergio Perez, second for myself.
I hope you're right. Honestly, I think this would be a great Grand Prix if you predict this correctly. If Hamilton starts on pole and he finishes P3 behind the two Red Bulls. But yeah, my winner pick, I'm going with Lewis Hamilton to go from pole to victory here. It's the easy pick. It's kind of the I don't know. It's just the easy pick, really. And it's just the safe bet for me this weekend for Hamilton. The fact that he was able to hold off the Red Bull there, track limits excluding that overtake there, I think
which was the right decision, by the way.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Hamilton is just on another level, and I think he's going to just get that another victory here. And I think in my timeline, I had him winning this race when I did our season preview, so I kind of had that kind of penciled out. So okay. I'll go with Hamilton here to go from pole to victory and open the season 2-for-2.
And of course, that means that I have Max Verstappen winning this race. I think Honda's come into play this season, and I think the speed that we've seen from AlphaTauri is going to lend towards Red Bull being really strong this weekend. They've had some issues in free practice. I'll say Mercedes goes out and gets the pole position there with Lewis Hamilton, but when it comes race day, I think it's going to be very close once again between the two. But I think that the Red Bull is going to prevail, and Honda has shown really, really strong so far. The Red Bulls, I think, will be very strong once again, and I'm really liking Max Verstappen, kind of the mojo that the team has right now with Sergio Perez there as well. He can impact things in terms of strategy calls, everything like that. So for myself, for the first time in forever, a Red Bull 1-2.
Wow. For a guy that thought Red Bull was going to finish second in the constructor standings, that's quite the bold claim here. Second race end of the season.
Never said it wasn't going to be close, though.
All right. I'm going to hold you to that. Mr. Cushman. But that's a good pick. I like that podium. Totally different. Very different in terms of our podium predictions for this one. And at the end of the day, it's probably just going to be Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen. And I think they tie the record for the most, the same podium positions in F1 history if they do that with Vettel, Rosberg, and Hamilton. I think I could be wrong on that, but they're very close if they haven't tied it already.
All I will say is that I really don't feel like we're going to get a normal podium. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. I hope you're right, because we both don't have really regular podiums in this one. And I think Imola has the possibility of doing a banger Grand Prix this weekend. Rain is a possibility, 40%. We'll see if that comes into play. Yeah. It's unlikely with given how Formula One's luck is with weather sometimes.
Well, it might be a damp track, but I don't think we'll get like active rain throughout the race, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, we will definitely see on that front. Any final thoughts for Formula One here before we briefly touch on IndyCar, which starts their season off this weekend?
Yeah, just super excited because it feels like we almost had like a preseason race, and now we're actually getting into the season because it's been 3 weeks or whatever. But just super excited for this weekend because, as you mentioned, we got F1, we got IndyCar, we got NASCAR, like we got everything coming back this weekend. So it's a busy weekend in terms of racing, but it really doesn't feel like a weekend of racing is complete without Formula One. So it's good to have both F1 back and a historic track as well in Imola.
Yeah. What time does this Grand Prix start for me? How early?
I think it's a regular start time, right?
Like 6 for me. That's 6 a.m. So I may get up for that. Because I do like doing the live stuff. Like I think it takes away it devalues it for me when I already know the result because I can't stay off Twitter through the entire thing. So I already know the results by the time I watch it. We'll see. It's to be determined on if I will get up live for qualifying or not qualifying. No, I'm not getting up for 5 a.m. 6 a.m. I can maybe manage for Sunday. But Formula One should be really fun to watch this weekend.
I thought the West Coast was the best coast, though.
It is the best coast for anything. Well, I don't want to be watching Hockey Night in Canada at 1 a.m., so I'll take that at the end of the day.
Nobody cares about the late game anyways.
I do, so because that's when my team plays.
So hey, nothing's better than staying up till 1 a.m. to watch your team lose. And they're not even playing right now, so.
Okay, you've crossed the line here, buddy. This is this is too much right now.
Just get to IndyCar already.
Let's get to IndyCar here. That does it for Formula One. And quickly here, IndyCar. Unfortunately, we didn't have time to do a proper season preview as we had done for NASCAR and Formula One.
Great timing, IndyCar as well. You couldn't have scheduled it for next weekend when we have the entire week to basically do whatever. Had to do it the last week of the semester when a bunch of assignments are due. But
that's great.
Anyways,
so
super excited for this season.
IndyCar is back, ladies and gentlemen, and it is in Alabama at Barber Motorsports Park this upcoming weekend on Sunday on the main network on NBC at 3 p.m. Eastern. It's a star-studded lineup this season. This is the most excited I've ever been for IndyCar coming into a season. We have the names of Jimmy Johnson, Rookie of the Year candidate, let's not forget, but he's not running the full season, but the road courses and the street circuits for Jimmy Johnson this season. 7-time Cup Series champion. Should be interesting to see how he adapts to his first season in IndyCar. Scott McLaughlin, obviously huge name down in Australia for the Supercar series, and he's just been lights out really down there for many years. I'm expecting a really good performance from him this season. Did one race last season. It was in St. Petersburg, if I believe.
Yeah, it was the last race.
Yeah, was it St. Petersburg? I just want to make sure. And he's going to be running the full season this season for Team Penske. It's just an unbelievable season on deck ahead. We've got obviously the defending champion Scott Dixon going for the record this season as well, going for 7 championships, I think, for IndyCar, right?
I think so.
Something like that. It's not. I don't think it's tied with
Let's see.
Formula One
he's
in
finished
NASCAR.
First 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times.
So he's going for the 7th. That's the record breaker. So we'll see if he can do it. See if the New Zealander can pull it off. What do you expect from this season, Kyle? What are you looking forward to the most here? We got obviously some big names from other series that we've grown up watching coming over here, namely Jimmy Johnson, of course. But you have the same star-studded names: Will Power, Joseph Newgarden, Ryan Hunter-Ray, hopefully for a bounce back here. Alexander Rossi needs a bit bounce back year this year as well. Scott Dixon, of course. What are you looking forward to most for IndyCar?
The fireworks. It's going to be a great season, and there's so much competitiveness throughout the entire field. And whether it's the rookies that you've got in Jimmy Johnson, Romain Grosjean, and Scott McLaughlin, 3 guys coming from 3 very different series, all to this one series, all to compete, whether it's the Indy 500 and Juan Pablo Montoya making his return, whether it's Simona Di Silvestro as well with Penske support, looking to do it for Paretta Autosport. Like, there's so many different things to look at throughout this season. It's going going to be a great championship battle as well. We'll see if Andretti can maybe step up to the plate and be better with Colton Herta now under the actual Andretti Autosport umbrella in the 26 versus previously with the Steinbrenner entry, even though it's all essentially the same thing.
It's going to get used to for me not him in the 88. I got to take a second there.
Yeah. Whether it's seeing what Penske can do and whether they can take back over the championship, seeing what McLaren can do, and seeing if they can have that breakthrough season for Pato O'Ward. He broke through last year. If he can really become a championship contender this year with Felix Rosenqvist as a teammate now, there's so many different things.
James Hinchcliffe's back.
Yeah, James Hinchcliffe's back. Oh, and by the way, Tony Kanont's doing ovals as well for a race-winning team. Like, it's all just phenomenal. Pietro Fittipaldi is doing, come on. It's all so much fun to watch. I cannot wait for the season. Oh, yeah, Elio Castroneves is running races. It's just top to bottom, just spectacular stuff all season long. I cannot wait.
It's really an all-star kind of series this season.
It's literally an all-star series. It's insane.
With how many different forms of motorsports we have coming into this year for the first time, I'm hopeful that NBC gets a ratings bump just based off of some fandom from international wise. And
the international viewers don't affect the viewership numbers from the States, but Jimmy Johnson going there should affect things big time.
Jimmy Johnson, if you're a fan of Jimmy Johnson, who's watched him since his Cup Series debut,
for sure,
you're
just
to
see what happens. So.
I mean, it's a double take, right? Do you want to watch NASCAR with Kyle Larson maybe potentially win in the old 48 car, or do you want to watch Jimmy Johnson go out there at Barber Motorsports Park? It's a toss up, but it's going to be fun nonetheless.
I'll be watching both, but if I'm being honest, IndyCar is going to be on the big screen.
Whoa. Drop the mic, Mr. Cushman. Jeez,
I don't think that's as much of a mic drop as you think, but
it is Richmond, so yeah. Baby.
You see, this race actually impacts the championship, so.
Okay, that any final thoughts? Oh my God, I can't believe you timed that in. You want to do winner pick at all? I mean, it's so difficult to really kind of decide, but
let's do it. I'm going to take Joseph Newgarden. It's Barber. He's been really good here in the past. Actually, last time we were here was Takuma Sato that won. But
when was the last time we were here? 2018, 2019?
2019. So Takuma Sato was dominant last time we were here. I'm going to say Newgarden goes back and takes the crown in preparation for what I think will be a championship season for Mr. Newgarden.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I'm going to say this brand knows best. Napa.
Oh, really?
Alexander Rossi goes to victory lane, avenges the demons from last season. I'm going to go with him to win Barber Motorsports Park this weekend in Alabama.
Race one, getting it done. Okay.
Gets it out of the way early. I think the monkey's going to get off of his back. Had a Cup Series champion with that same sponsorship for NASCAR. I think Alexander Rossi
works there now, so I mean it's a pretty.
It all works. It all works. I'm going to go with that with him with Honda getting the victory.
Does that mean I have to become a Rossi fan now?
I don't think there's anything wrong with being a Rossi fan.
I don't mind him.
He's a likable guy.
He's not my guy in IndyCar, but I think I kind of.
Who's your guy in IndyCar? So. I don't even know you had a guy in IndyCar.
I don't know, James Hinchcliffe.
Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty straightforward. I think all of Canada is basically.
Exactly. I don't know. I don't have a specific. I have a group of gentlemen that I support.
I will say that this is probably the hardest I'm ever going to cheer for Jimmy Johnson in my life this upcoming weekend. So
really, okay.
I hope he does well. Honestly, I think that's the thing I'm going to be most likely watching. Yeah. I mean, he's had a lot of practice time here, lots of test sessions, so it's not entirely new to him right now. And I'm just curious to see how he gets on and where he can finish in his opening race this weekend. So long season ahead, goes till September for IndyCar here. So motorsports for the first weekend of 2021, all three series are back in action.
Supercars as well, if you want to stay up late.
Oh, Jesus. I can only manage so much here, man.
Dude, the series is so good, man. It's even earlier for you. It's so good. I don't know. It's so good. But anyways.
You got to start your own supercar show.
Honestly, I might have to, but the stuff is so like it's like not that like for you it starts at like 10 or 11, so it's not like that bad. But
Yeah.
anyway,
We got Shell to play. That's at the end of the day. That's kind of what it comes.
That's true. Anyway,
Alrighty. I think
one last prediction is in store for Mr. Jimmy Johnson. Top 15 at Barber, yes or no?
Yes.
I'll go no.
Wah, wah, wah.
It's a tough lineup, man. I just can't.
Chaos.
I just can't see it.
Chaos ensues. Chaos ensues. I think Jimmy Johnson gets a top 15 here. Alrighty. Any final thoughts before we wrap up this one?
Just a super, super exciting weekend coming up. Like I'm just looking at the schedule here. Like you got Truck Series Richmond, you got Supercars, you got Cup Series, you got F1, you got IndyCar. If you like two wheels as well, you got MotoGP. Like you got everything you could possibly want this weekend coming up. Just so much action-packed content. I do have a couple of things I need to get done, so I should probably get that done sooner rather than later, but we'll see about that. But just a super, super exciting weekend coming up of racing.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. We've got you covered here at The Green Flag. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at The Green Flag Pod, as well as Twitter at The Green Flag Pod. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We just hit 50 subs, so thank you very much for everybody who's subscribed so far. There's a link to all of our social channels in the description of the YouTube video. But for this episode, I've been Lukas Wacker. He's been Kyle Cushman. Signing off for now. We will talk to you early next week to get you recap from all the racing action across all forms of motorsports. Enjoy the racing this weekend, everybody.